new audiobooks on our channel for free every week. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss out. Do you often think about what you could do if you overcame your laziness, stopped getting distracted by irritants, and stopped wasting time in vain? To stop regretting wasted time, learn to use it wisely. This book collects recipes that truly help develop willpower and self-discipline and teach you to achieve your goals. If you plan to start a new life from Monday, dedicate your weekend to this book. The introduction of self-discipline is often raised very frequently. When it comes to self-development, it's no secret that success in life is influenced not only by knowledge and skills but also by the willingness to work, proper motivation, and the ability to overcome oneself. Successful people can always complete tasks without looking back at their emotional state. So what is self-discipline? It is the ability of a person to make themselves do something to achieve results, regardless of changing external circumstances, problems, needs, bad mood, or harmful influences, laziness, lack of motivation, or incentive. This ability is one of the fundamental principles of success. Without it, you cannot achieve what you want. And without self-discipline, necessary actions simply will not be started or, more often than not, will not be completed because there are always 1,000 excuses. Discipline actually gives freedom. Perhaps it's difficult to believe right away. Many people equate discipline with complete lack of freedom. But in reality, everything is the opposite. And disciplined people depend on mood, desires, and passions. Self-discipline includes actions related to what occupies your mind, not what you feel at the moment, more often than not. This means the need to sacrifice temporary pleasure for meaningful things in life. Therefore, only self-discipline will make you work on an idea or project after the inspiration is gone. Go to the gym when you want to lie on the couch and watch TV after a hard day at work. Wake up early for a workout and flawless outfit. Refuse dessert when temptation calls to break your diet. Check email several times a day at specific times and send necessary messages. Why do people need self-discipline? Ideal self-discipline helps accomplish absolutely all planned actions and achieve success in almost any endeavor. It helps get rid of harmful and unnecessary dependencies, including giving the opportunity to get rid of the habit of postponing things. Imagine what you could have already achieved if you always made yourself follow your important goals, despite everything. Imagine losing weight or getting an education, finding your dream job, or earning a large sum of money. Without self-discipline, these intentions are not realized. But with it, issues are resolved in your favor. Discipline is one of the most effective and accessible tools for personal development. This means of self-control can give you the strength to quit smoking or say goodbye to excess weight. There are practically no problems that do not require self-discipline to solve. The most valuable reward for developing and strengthening self-discipline is the opportunity to achieve stunning results and set more challenging goals, the usefulness of which is much higher. Chapter 1. Self-discipline. First steps. Once this book is in your hands, you have enough weak self-discipline. Like the absolute majority of people, perhaps at the moment, you cannot do certain things that you would like to do, such as playing the violin. But you can overcome yourself, strengthen your self-discipline, and finally learn what you want and reach a new level of development. Indeed, self-discipline is not an innate quality, it can be developed. You can improve self-discipline just as you can train your body. This is not achieved in a few days or weeks, but in the end, you will make significant progress. So where to start? First of all, work on your psychological preparation. Without the right attitude, the ability to control yourself, and sincere belief in your abilities, you are doomed to failure. Ironically, it is the internal readiness to change and change yourself that is the weakest point in self-education. There are absolutely no universal rituals that can help improve your personality, since all people are so different. That's why the initial stage of self-discipline development is meticulous self-analysis, rebuilding consciousness and subconsciousness. By neglecting psychology, you confine yourself to misconceptions about your own abilities and capabilities. As a result, your successes will only reach the bar you set for yourself. First and foremost, it's necessary to change not behavior, but the perception of oneself. How to do it? Understand yourself. You want to learn to act as you see fit, despite what you feel at the moment. Therefore, the most important component of self-discipline is self-awareness. You need to understand which behaviors and traits better reflect your goals and values. This process requires self-analysis, but it's best to do it in writing. Make sure to dedicate time to write down your goals, dreams, and ambitions. Discipline itself depends on understanding what you do and what you don't do. Ponder on that. If you don't understand that your behavior is unacceptable for you, how can you realize that you need to act differently? If you constantly face difficulties in a specific area of life, most likely, the root of the problem is the refusal to acknowledge reality as it is. Until you understand what exactly hinders you, you won't be able to properly determine what can and cannot be done. You will achieve short-term successes in small matters and make serious mistakes in large projects. But most likely, you will blame external circumstances and difficulties rather than admit that you need to become stronger. That's why it's so important to understand that serious self-work is indispensable. Determine your level of self-discipline. If you don't know it, it will be unclear how to plan your work in the future. This statement may seem simple and obvious, but in practice, it's extremely difficult to assess. The very first mistake people make in trying to increase their level of self-discipline is the inability to accurately understand and accept their current position. Willpower training is similar to muscle training. To succeed in the gym, you need to know how strong you are at the moment. Without this, you won't be able to choose a reasonable training program, only risking getting too much or too little load. In the first case, you won't be able to take the first steps. In the second, improvements will be too insignificant and will be wasted. So, you need to decide which task is easy for you and which seems unattainable. Here's an approximate list of questions that will help you analyze where you are right now. Do you take a shower every day? Do you wake up at the same time on weekdays and weekends? Do you have excess weight? If yes, how much? Do you have dependencies and dietary habits, caffeine, nicotine, sugar that you can't give up? Are you sure your mailbox is empty? Is your desk well organized? Is your house clean? How much time do you waste on weekdays and weekends? If you promise something to someone, what's the likelihood that you will fulfill the promise? If you make a promise to yourself, what's the likelihood that you will fulfill it? Is your computer hard drive organized? How often do you do physical exercises or sports? What's the most significant physical load you faced? When was it? How many hours do you work on weekdays? If there are tasks you can't accomplish for 3 months already, do you write down your goals and ways to achieve them? How much time do you spend watching TV or on social media? Could you give up TV for a month and entertainment on the internet? What do you look like now? Is your haircut neat? Is your clothing ironed? Do you adhere to the principles of healthy eating or are you on a diet? If you have debts and loans, what's your plan for repayment? Finally, rate your level of self-discipline on a scale from 1 to 10. You should identify areas where your discipline clearly lags behind, assess how far it is from ideal, and develop a training program for yourself. For example, if you have trouble getting up at 9 o'clock a.m. every morning, the chance of you being able to wake up at 5 o'clock a.m. every morning is unlikely. But could you get up 15 minutes earlier? Yes, it's not difficult. And when you start to succeed in waking up 15 minutes earlier, or it's more convenient for you to move the alarm clock back by half an hour, as soon as you start to increase your level of self-discipline, you will begin to notice unnecessary actions. You will find that you bite your nails, refuse to go to the pool, buy a new pastry, or constantly check the number of messages on your phone. Developing self-discipline takes a lot of time. Over time, you will learn to notice minor transgressions before you catch yourself behaving in a disciplined manner. This will help you make the right decision, which will be in harmony with your goals and values. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new releases. Get into the new groove. The outcome of any situation depends on its causes. The cause of self-development is always some idea or belief. Throughout our lives, each of us gains and accumulates certain experiences, based on which we form a very clear, but not always correct view of ourselves. The problem is that regardless of the true state of affairs, a thinking person will believe in their perceptions, and thus they become our truth. Typically, and disciplined people believe in their inability to organize their lives. Moreover, they convince others of this. And it is precisely such defeatist attitudes that determine the not-so-good quality of life. Our consciousness is arranged in such a way that a firmly entrenched thought, for example, about our own inadequacy, will begin to control our lives. Only a serious, independent restructuring of our mindset can solve this problem. Unfortunately, often such perceptions of ourselves become a barrier to self-improvement, limiting and hindering us from completing tasks. Decide to change your life. The possibility of achieving results on the path of self-discipline development depends on whether a person is willing to abandon their old habits and views. Can they overcome their self-doubt, their belief in the limitedness of their abilities? Even if you already understand that you need to change your approach to affairs and time management, even if you realize that without development you won't achieve what you desire, you will still experience fear of change, unwillingness to influence your life in any way. It is characteristic of humans to remain in their zone of psychological comfort until the last moment, even if such an action will inevitably lead to disaster. Meanwhile, the only way to achieve a new level of development is to acknowledge the uncomfortable truth for oneself. And the truth is that self-discipline cannot be pursued on an ad hoc basis. It must necessarily be systematic and continuous work, and this means that your life will change. Be prepared that initially it will be unfamiliar and uncomfortable, but the subsequent benefits will more than compensate for the difficult transitional period. Set yourself the right goal. Deep down, every person knows exactly what they want to achieve in life. When you listen to your inner voice, you will understand what exactly is unsatisfactory for you and why you decided to pursue self-discipline. If you want to take control of your life, you must first understand what you want to achieve. You must form an image of your own self, a mental representation of how you want to see yourself. Before figuring out how to achieve what you desire, you need to be clear about your desires. Once you realize what is important to you, your plans will naturally revolve around achieving your goal. A clear understanding of your dream, whether it's a house, a job, a car, money, or a happy personal life, significantly increases the chances of noticing suitable opportunities and taking advantage of all convenient moments. Be sure to write down all your aspirations and desires. This simple method will bring your dreams one step closer to reality. Promise yourself to achieve results. Simply writing down your goals and values on a piece of paper is not enough. You must give yourself internal commitments and promise to achieve results. Otherwise, when the alarm clock wakes you up in the morning, you won't find anything wrong with lying down for a few more minutes and then postponing getting up and charging again. If you don't give yourself a word to achieve what you desire, you risk abandoning any project immediately after the first period full of enthusiasm. If you've ever tried to organize your life and failed on this path, start by making a conscious decision. Promise yourself that you will finish what you set out to do. Be sure to set an approximate deadline for when the promise will be fulfilled and the main conditions that will serve as criteria for completion. For a long time, you will have to track your commitments and assess how far you have progressed on your path. As the saying goes, what can be measured can be improved. On the path to achievement, you will encounter many distractions, unforeseen circumstances, moods, and feelings. Many things can alter your plans, so self-discipline heavily relies on courage and the ability to say no. Absolutely everyone is forced to change their plans, and the more often this happens, the less enthusiasm they feel for the task at hand. That's why it's essential to monitor your steps towards your goal. Once you start achieving small personal victories, your self-confidence will significantly increase, and it will become easier for you to adhere to the principles of self-discipline. Learn to engage in internal dialogue. When we expect a specific outcome from a situation, we inevitably get it. It's worth convincing yourself in advance that events will unfold according to a certain scenario. We begin to absorb only the information that confirms our expectations, and they inevitably come true. Knowing this peculiarity of the mind's functioning, you can either reinforce the existing perception of yourself through internal dialogue or change it for the better. The more we think about a particular quality of ourselves, the more accustomed we become to it. We automatically act as we're used to, without even thinking about our actions. For example, many people, when failing to meet their own expectations, reinforce negative experiences in their subconscious. They repeatedly say to themselves, "I failed again. That's how it always goes." Such thoughts intensify negative self-attitudes and only lead to repeating poor results. But the opposite is also true. Engaging in a proper internal dialogue with oneself allows us to perform actions that bring benefits. Based on this feature of the human mind, numerous self-training practices have been developed. The essence of all such methods is to learn not to criticize oneself in the most challenging moments, but to program oneself for necessary actions. Instead of self-condemnation, mentally or explicitly describe on paper how you will act next time. There's no need to dwell on your shortcomings and accumulate negative experiences. Just tell yourself, next time, I'll do this and that. With this simple statement, you immediately establish productive feedback with your subconscious. Instead of negative experiences, a constructive attitude toward the future will be formed in your memory. If you have done something right, are satisfied with the results of your actions, and experience a spiritual uplift, try to reinforce this necessary experience in your subconscious. Simply say to yourself, I am like this. It's similar to me. Such simple statements are the best way to increase self-esteem and self-respect. Once you master the simple rules of internal dialogue, you'll stop simply criticizing yourself and learn to appreciate your virtues. It will become easier for you to deal with tasks that previously seemed unsolvable. Plan small steps. When you realize that you are ready for significant changes, it's time to plan. No major goal is achieved instantly. Serious matters take time. Therefore, after defining your goal, plan what small steps you will take each day towards it. Start with small steps and do them consistently because everyone's capabilities are limited. If you immediately burden yourself with overwhelming tasks, inspiration will quickly disappear. It's necessary to use a progressive approach, gradually increasing the load. This way, you can significantly expand your potential. But when planning is complete, two questions arise: how to motivate yourself to start acting towards the goal and how to continue acting and bring the matter to completion. To find the right answers, you need to remember the power of will. Chapter 2: Power and Will. How not to deviate from the path. Answering the questions of how to start acting and how to continue moving along the chosen path will help the power of will. Willpower is the ability of a person to consciously and promptly make decisions, start performing actions in accordance with the decisions made, and overcome obstacles to achieve the set goal. Essentially, willpower is a key moment and a mandatory condition for self-discipline. The stronger a person's will, the faster they start implementing their decisions, and the less often they postpone them for later. Willpower is manifested in the fact that a person concentrates on a chosen goal for a long time, refuses less important desires, and makes efforts to stick to their plan. At the same time, a person needs to achieve a result, and the process of achieving the goal itself is not enjoyable for him. That is, if some actions are taken for the sake of pleasure, then this is not a manifestation of willpower. To develop willpower, you need to train constantly. This means consciously setting yourself increasingly complex and difficult to achieve goals, requiring significant efforts to achieve results over a long period of time. At the beginning of almost any endeavor, a person experiences a surge of enthusiasm and interest, but this push is temporary, and willpower in this case helps to overcome inertia. The more correct the direction of its action, the more powerful this impulse will be. In the future, without willpower and perseverance, it is impossible to stay the course. Perseverance is the ability of a person to act without paying attention to feelings and emotions. You refrain from smoking even when you feel like smoking. If you have set yourself a big task, your enthusiasm and vigor will gradually diminish. And this is normal. After all, emotions will not lead to the result, only actions will. Willpower allows you to continue moving forward, even if you don't want to get distracted from entertainment and get off the couch. Achieving results will give you a new impetus for development. Train every day. Unfortunately, there is no list of necessary exercises for training willpower because character development cannot be planned and done twice a week. The best training for willpower is small daily feats demonstrating willpower in any small things, not impulses followed by long periods of inactivity, but constant, albeit very modest, acts of will. Character development happens every day. As it is known, small drops of water can erode a stone, just as seemingly simple actions, accumulating, can achieve a lot. For example, if you have decided to read 10 books, there is no need to set aside a whole day for this and turn pages from morning till late at night. It's better to force yourself to take a book in your hands for half an hour every day. Several months will pass, and all the books will be read. This gradual method is better than tense anticipation of hard work. Regular manifestations of will, even in the most insignificant actions, temper character, And conversely, regular manifestations of laziness and weakness can destroy willpower. You cannot become a disciplined person in one moment. Developing self-discipline and willpower takes time, and you must be prepared for this. The longer you strive to take disciplined steps, the stronger you become. Establish a ritual for yourself that you must perform every day, and consistently follow it. Start with something small, preferably something that brings pleasant emotions in the end. It could be light exercise, waking up 10 minutes earlier every day, and so on. Organize your space. So, you have started the task, forced yourself to move forward. However, the initial impulse quickly fades, and the goal is still far away. Continuing to move in the right direction will be easier if you create certain conditions that will help you move forward. You need to think through and organize the surrounding space in such a way as to protect yourself from temptations and distracting factors. When you strengthen your positions, it will be much easier for you to follow the intended course. To understand what is being talked about, let's consider a specific example. Imagine that you have decided to discipline your diet and only consume healthy food. How to give up the habit of taking sausage from the fridge at night? It's very simple. Don't put sausage in the fridge. If you're afraid of gaining weight but love to snack on something tasty in front of the TV, throw away the cookies and replace them with dried fruits. Proper organization of your work and living space will help you act differently without experiencing serious emotional discomfort. How to achieve this? In fact, you already know what prevents you from achieving results. You just need to analyze your experience. By making a decision to take one action or another, you automatically start thinking about what could be an obstacle. All your fears and doubts can harm you or serve you well. To make your goal more realistic, you need to listen to your anxieties and soberly assess possible obstacles and difficulties. Ask yourself, what could prevent me? This will help you understand what needs to be eliminated in your surrounding space. Make a complete list of possible obstacles, trying not to miss any detail. Of course, you won't be able to cover everything and predict everything at once, but the better you prepare for obvious obstacles, the easier it will be to deal with unexpected situations. Learn to show perseverance. In ideal conditions, it's easier to give up unnecessary things and old habits, but no conditions will make you act if enthusiasm has waned, and there is a lot of routine and boring work ahead. Perhaps these are the most unpleasant moments on the way to any goal. Without persistent effort and perseverance, it will not be possible to succeed. Persistence. It is your ability to continue the execution of a started course of action to achieve a result, regardless of the obstacles and difficulties encountered. Persistence helps overcome situations where there is a clear awareness of the usefulness and importance of the goal but no motivation to achieve it. Hard work itself will provide motivation once the first clear results are achieved. It is your task not to deviate from the path immediately when persistence and perseverance are required. Having seen at least once what overcoming boredom and difficulties leads to, you will always remember this positive experience and thereby find the energy to continue working. It is quite natural that daily difficulties and habitual laziness will constantly disrupt your work rhythm. Perhaps you will feel that overcoming yourself requires too much effort. In this case, take a minute to distract yourself from the situation and remember the benefits your goal will bring. Keep remembering them again and again until your determination to act again strengthens. Consider that your desire and aspiration are much more important than routine difficulties and personal shortcomings. But when faced with a whole front of routine work, it is difficult to think about completing all tasks and rewards if memories of the benefits do not help move forward. Do not focus on the end goal, but try to concentrate on the specific next step. Complete one small task at a time without thinking about how many more steps are left. If you start worrying about how much more effort you need to put into your goals, you may give up your desires. Step by step, this is the main principle of demonstrating persistence. Strive to act today. Unfinished tasks tend to accumulate, gradually turning into a catastrophic lack of time. Self-discipline helps to fight this snowball effect. After you have written down everything you really want to achieve on paper, start working on it. Return to your big plans every day. Even if for some reason you do not complete everything you planned, dedicate at least a few minutes to your big goal. Any procrastination and gaps weaken your determination to become disciplined and relax your willpower. If you miss even one day, your level of self-discipline will sharply decrease, and restoring it will not be easy. Let yourself take only one small step, but even this will strengthen your inner determination, and the next day it will be much easier to start working on tasks. Thus, an effective accumulation is created, multiplying the power of your mind, which allows you to set more ambitious goals and achieve them. To consolidate the positive influence of small achievements, fix in your mind a conversation with yourself such as setting, "This is like me. I am training my willpower." Find yourself a mentor. Ask someone you trust, whether a friend or a relative, to monitor your success in self-discipline. To succeed, you need to know how achievement looks from the outside, from the mentor's point of view. It is often best seen what you are doing wrong. Once an error is noticed, your helper can point it out and help you rectify it. Such control helps you adapt to a new rhythm and behavioral patterns as quickly as possible. It is very useful to share your plans with a partner and mentor who can track how well the process is progressing. After all athletes and Olympic champions have coaches, people who watch from the sidelines and monitor discipline. But do not rely entirely on the authority of your mentor or partner, as your goal is to learn to eventually cope without anyone's help and act according to your own will. Learn to meditate. Tips for applying meditation techniques are widely available, but for most people, this approach to self-improvement remains a mysterious novelty. People who try to meditate often feel nothing but boredom at first and immediately give up training. Then newcomers try to focus on their goal. They feel anxious within the first few minutes of meditation. But that's why meditation is a wonderful way to train and strengthen your willpower. The task of meditation, when you want to develop self-discipline, is to help you focus on the main tasks and free your mind from everyday clutter. Thanks to a few minutes of meditation, you will learn to forget about laziness or a bad mood and fully switch your consciousness for effective work. During the first few days of meditation practice, you will want to quit this incomprehensible and useless activity. However, with time, you will learn to control your thoughts. In a sense, you are training your mind to resist negative moods and doubts. Initially, you will be able to force yourself to adopt a meditative, that is, maximally comfortable posture. Then you will learn to free your mind from the stream of thoughts, and only after that, meditation will become a unique means of self-control. At the end of the meditation session, set yourself up for work, and soon you will notice how your productivity increases after each meditation. Your task during meditation is to relax your body so that discomfort does not distract you from concentration. Then you need to discard stray thoughts. To do this, concentrate on your breathing, on the sounds of pleasant music, and only after the minor anxieties have left you, make a decision to act. Stick to one goal. When you are at the beginning of the path and have just started developing self-discipline, do not try to deceive yourself and do not make your mind work on several goals at once. Stick to one goal at a time, and when you achieve it, set a new task. This way, you will be able to control your energy and direct it towards completing important tasks, learning to deal with short-term temptations. Be prepared that at some point you will show weakness and want to quit everything or deviate slightly from the plan. You will always come up with a bunch of excuses to postpone what could be done or not done now. Sometimes your emotions will take over, and that's okay. However, blindly following momentary desires will never lead to results, and on the contrary, each achievement will reinforce your willpower. But how to act when you are faced with a choice? To satisfy your momentary desire or to refuse emotions in favor of a rational choice. First, admit that the speed of reaching your goal depends on your choice. Then allow yourself to feel resistance. If you're not in the mood, for example, when you don't feel like working, tell yourself, "I don't want to do this right now, but I understand that it's necessary. I've also decided to develop my level of self-discipline, and it's best to train willpower by doing what you don't like. Therefore, if I start working, I will immediately achieve goals, achieve results, and develop self-discipline." After such a conversation with yourself, take a few very deep breaths, relax, and try to think about something unrelated, not about work or your emotions. Distract yourself from the momentary problem, then take action. When faced with temptations, it may seem that overcoming them will be painful and unrewarding. However, this is not the case. When we contradict our goals, we experience stress, and conversely, achieving a new milestone brings relief. Find the time and opportunity to praise yourself for choosing self-discipline. Remember this feeling. It will become a source of motivation for you next time. The more you resist temptations, the faster your motivation to act will grow until it becomes a useful habit. Record your achievements. One of the most important reasons for successful goal achievement is positive feedback. Without it, you will not be able to maintain constant enthusiasm and inspiration. Be sure to write down or mark all your achievements in your diary, including overcoming small obstacles. You can even keep a special notebook for this. Every time you look at it, you will strengthen your self-confidence, belief in your ability to achieve what you want, and cope with difficulties. At first glance, all this may seem like unnecessary work that only adds to the hassle. However, attempts to make yourself do something without confirmation of success are doomed to failure. Do not underestimate the value of feedback, otherwise you will deprive yourself of a unique tool for help and will not be able to realize your potential. Recording achievements and rewarding yourself is a very useful habit. Chapter 3. Motivation. Set goals right. It's no secret to anyone that motivation is the main driving force behind a person. Thanks to motivation, we set ambitious goals for ourselves, and then we achieve results. However, many want to be successful, but not everyone succeeds. One simple desire is not enough, so it is necessary to remember that motivation needs to be used wisely. Ordinary motivation lasts for a few days, but during this time, it is impossible to achieve great goals. It is precisely for this reason that with the help of motivation, it is very rare, for example, to give up harmful habits, stop drinking alcohol, quit smoking, motivations that every person dreams of. This is achievement motivation. It gives us the strength to overcome obstacles, the desire to improve, develop our skills, and achieve set goals. Define your benefit. The main difference between successful people and everyone else is a fully conscious desire, a clear understanding of the benefit. It increases the desire to achieve the planned result. So do not waste time and carefully analyze what benefits and bonuses a new venture will bring you. The goal can only be something that initially has a reward. If your goal does not contain compensation for work, then it is not a goal. Moreover, all benefits must be measured in some way. If you do not know why you want to start acting, then you simply will not have the motivation to overcome obstacles, and this means that your activity will not last long. Any unpleasant task can be turned into an interesting one if you clearly formulate what you aspire to achieve. In other words, define the specific end result of the work. Properly formulated motivation can again and again become a source of inspiration, but for this, you need to know the techniques that turn ordinary desires into the engine of self-development. Cut off paths to retreat. The best way to motivate yourself is to find yourself in a position where you will have to make serious decisions and act for their implementation, even against your will. For example, a complete lack of money leaves a person no choice but to find a job and start earning. And a job reduction is a stimulus to start your own business. Such an approach is needed if you cannot break out of the routine without a powerful push. Then you need to find a starting point. If you do not burn all the bridges, then in the subconscious, there remains the fact that at any moment you can abandon new goals, retreat, and return to what was before. And this scenario is inevitably implemented as soon as you face serious difficulties or the first results come, along with fatigue. It is worth warning that a decisive approach is needed only for those who are ready to take serious risks. It is clear that usually people do not take such radical measures. That is why they continue to remain ordinary people all their lives. The simplest and softest option, which helps to cut off the paths back, is a public statement about new habits. Tell your colleagues, friends, and relatives that from now on you, for example, quit smoking. Public control can help you stay on the chosen path. Seek inspiration every day. The simplest way for impressionable and emotional people who help recharge their motivation is to use numerous sources of information. In the abundance presented in the modern world, it can be any audio recordings, books, articles, forums, seminars, training sessions, and much more. If some new information can add optimism and the desire to move forward, look for such information. But be careful in choosing sources. Try to minimize negative influence. Visualize your goals to turn your desires into goals and goals into motivation. The technique of visualization is used Mental representation is the ability to see future reality in images. When a new interesting idea arises in consciousness, again and again over time, it turns into a clear, well-detailed, and recognizable image. Visualization is also called controlled imagination. This is one of the most effective and accessible stimuli for any changes. Visualization is a conscious process during which we focus on some idea until the imaginary image begins to evoke the desired emotional response, namely, a surge of inspiration and a desire to act. Only a clear mental image, a detailed representation of the situation from the first person and in the present tense will help change the surrounding reality. Properly representing yourself in the right situation is not the same as watching a fictional movie. You can only make yourself do something with the help of those mental pictures in which you are the main character and act in the present tense. You must not only imagine yourself in an imaginary situation, the mental image must be reinforced by a conscious statement, that is, return to internal dialogue, and only then can you hope for a result. Visualization is a conscious process in which internal conviction is formed sufficient to take action. To make visualization fruitful, it is necessary to invest strong emotions in the mental image. The use of visualization is a kind of self-hypnosis, that is, intentional self-suggestion. The action of visualization relies on the psychological effect of displacement. If you place a glass of dirty water under a tap and start filling it with clean water, soon the clean water will displace the dirty water. The same happens with thoughts. Using mental images is a very productive way to program yourself for success. It is enough to repeat them every day to change your life for the better. Compete with yourself. To understand what you can achieve, you need to compare your current position with where you are constantly moving. The main thing is to compete with yourself, not with others. By comparing yourself with someone else, you can quickly demotivate yourself. Even if you start with enthusiasm, you will soon lose your energy if you compare your successes with others. Remember that the only competitor you have is yourself. Only one question should concern you: are you becoming better than you were before? How to regain motivation after failure. Everyone has bad days, we all make mistakes and have setbacks. Most likely, you will sooner or later find yourself in a situation where your project is not going as planned. Of course, you will be disappointed, and this, in turn, can determine your ultimate success or failure. The point is that failure can at best lead to a bad mood and at worst to a loss of motivation to continue working on yourself. If you give up because of setbacks, stop fighting circumstances for a while if failure follows one after another. Stop resisting and postpone implementing plans for the next day. Attempts to change circumstances at all costs create even more pressure on you. Your task is to minimize long-term damage by refraining from making any decisions. Negative information in large quantities reduces the ability to take active actions. Take a break, distract yourself from problems. Failures force us to analyze and try to think about how to get rid of problems. But in a tough period, this only leads to focusing on mistakes. When there is no motivation to act anymore, it makes sense to escape from problems. Go to the movies, go dancing, play with your children. Do anything that will distract you and stop you from dwelling on your bad day. Your problems won't go away, you will have to solve them soon, but after a short break, you will approach them with renewed vigor. Don't accumulate failures. If you had a difficult day, you couldn't complete some of the planned tasks, you don't like the results of your work, and then someone stepped on your foot in transport, it's easy to conclude that you're in a streak of bad luck. Don't generalize one negative situation. You shouldn't add up failures since many unpleasant events have completely different reasons. Determine why exactly all the failures occurred, and you will understand that not everything is so bad, and only one day is bad, not your whole life. Don't take on extra responsibility. Many unpleasant events you encounter are not your fault. Motivation is perhaps the only tool capable of moving us forward and bringing us closer to solving any task. No matter what goal we set for ourselves, when you decide to improve your life, you will encounter many difficulties. If you try to follow the above advice, you will maintain your motivation and always be ready to conquer new heights. Chapter 4. Self-management, proper planning. For many people, self-discipline primarily manifests itself in clear planning of their day and unwavering adherence to the established schedule without any doubt. A life where every minute is scheduled has its advantages, but in practice, especially in the modern world, Following your plans from start to finish almost never happens. Unexpected calls, traffic jams, large flows of information constantly adjust all our intentions, and for many, ordinary entries in a daily planner do not help to stick to the schedule. This is because people do not pay attention to the art of planning and skillfully distributing their time. The most important thing in discipline is not how many minutes a day you spend cleaning your room, but how quickly you progress towards your goal. Based on this, you need to plan your day and build plans for a longer term, from a week to several years. There is a large amount of research confirming that setting specific times and strictly following the order of work significantly increases the likelihood of success. The explanation for this is again based on the fact that our ability to self-control is limited and easily exhausted. By clearly defining when, where, how, and what needs to be done, we will no longer think too much about all this. Morning rituals are the first thing people strive to start the process of self-discipline with. It's an opportunity to wake up faster and immediately get actively involved in tasks. To begin with, it's worth considering the mandatory sequence of actions that need to be planned and done every morning. Everyone has a specific set of tasks that should be performed daily. You need to practice them to the extent that all actions are performed automatically, without the need for willpower. If you start each morning with certain actions, then, firstly, you'll be able to tune into productive work, and secondly, you'll awaken your body and charge it with energy. Moreover, morning rituals are those little tasks and victories that better than others train willpower and the ability to resist weaknesses. Firstly, drink a glass of water in the morning. You can do this while still lying in bed. A glass of water is the first means to quickly wake up and not hit the snooze button for another 5 minutes. Secondly, start exercising. And if you have the desire and opportunity, go for a short run in the morning. Arrange it. This way, you'll already stand out from the 99% of people who are only planning to do all this. It's not necessary to follow a complex exercise program. Exercise isn't meant to torture you. All you need to do is to get out of bed and kickstart the metabolic processes in your body. Exercise helps not to spend several morning hours just to get yourself together and start working productively. Of course, it's hard to disagree with the fact that in the morning, there's practically no strength or mood. Just do a few squats to get your energy up. Thirdly, take a shower. This procedure stimulates the activity of the nervous system. Moreover, after these actions, you'll definitely wake up and be ready for any day. No matter how difficult it may seem, most likely, you already have many personal rituals. They're just beyond your conscious attention. Rituals give us a sense of comfort, continuity, and security, freeing up space for improvisation and risk. Rituals form a stable framework of our lives, where creative breakthroughs often occur. They also free up time for recovery and renewal, that is, for replenishing internal energy. Surely, the state of flow is familiar to everyone. It's a state of inspiration when your hands move on their own, thoughts go in the right direction. It seems like you're ready to move mountains. These feelings together create an effect called flow state. You need to know how to evoke and maintain it. The application of self-discipline includes the following stages. First, setting a goal. Second, creating a plan to achieve the goals. Third, executing the plan. When you've seen the goal, you can create a plan in a state of flow. But by the third step, inspiration may no longer be sufficient. Many people notice that they live according to a clear schedule, when the desire to work and act appears only in favorable conditions. For this, you need to sleep well, see the sun, receive praise or approval. But if something goes wrong, the desire to move forward immediately disappears. Therefore, don't even try to make long-term plans in such a way that a high level of willpower is required. Daily, willpower is unstable, especially if you're just starting to train your personality. You need to use the flow state as effectively as possible because it doesn't last for weeks but disperses over a few days. You should consider this when setting goals and ways to achieve them. It's best to use the flow state for planning and organizing the space around you. Try to think about which actions you can turn into rituals to perform them automatically. Limitations imposed by conscious will and discipline are based on the fact that all actions, requiring our self-control when we decide what to eat or try to cope with disappointment, set up a regimen of physical exercises, or carry out a complex project. All of them draw on the same small energy reserve. Ritual power, on the other hand, comes from the fact that they save energy. Unlike willpower and discipline, which imply that we must push ourselves to act, well-developed rituals pull us themselves. If we don't perform them, we feel worse because willpower and discipline are much more limited and valuable resources than most of us think. They should be used selectively and sparingly, and using them in one type of activity means that they become less accessible for another type. The sad truth is that we have resources to perform only a very small number of conscious actions per day. So when you sit down to develop a plan, remember that your energy peak is temporary, and you shouldn't rely on it every day. This will only lead to disrupted plans and disappointment. It's better to achieve small success and progress gradually than to create a grand plan and completely fail it. Planning basics. It's no secret that effective planning plays a significant role in everyone's life. Whether large or small, structured to-do lists help relieve memory load. By offloading tasks stored in your brain, you free yourself and can therefore concentrate on the current task. That's why it's crucial to dedicate separate time to planning and include absolutely all tasks in your to-do list, starting with the smallest ones. Creating detailed plans regularly, preferably at night, is worthwhile. This way, intrusive thoughts won't haunt you at night, and in the morning, after your basic rituals, you won't have to ponder what to do first. You can immediately get to work. Another essential aspect, apart from creating the list, is its proper organization. By what criteria should tasks be classified? Choose for yourself so that they understand how you prefer to work. You can systematize tasks, for example, based on the amount of time required to solve each task, or divide the list by areas of activity. At the beginning of the list, specify urgent and non-urgent tasks. Every task you complete will undoubtedly motivate you to do the next one. Set small tasks strictly for specific times of the day. Strive to complete your work to fit within the allotted time in the plan. Moreover, through planning, you'll minimize the likelihood of accumulating unfinished tasks. Tails are called those tasks that have been postponed and gradually accumulate. They drain your energy significantly. Besides accumulating and requiring much effort to resolve over time, tails constantly make us worry. So try to ensure that tails don't grow. Use the advantages provided by planning instead of spending many hours solving a major task in one day and not allocating time for the same task on another day. Plan the process of working on the task for the whole week. This way, you develop a habit of step-by-step task execution, meaning you'll stop trying to do everything at once. First, you develop the habit, then the habit does the work for you. That's what self-discipline is. Avoid interruptions. Most often, our plans fail and are not implemented because something distracts us during work. This can happen for a million different reasons. New emails arrive, someone calls, sends a text message. In this situation, to get back to work, immerse yourself in a state of flow. You need to meditate. Remember your goals, overcome laziness, work for 15 to 20 minutes, and return to that atmosphere. But even then, something may distract you again. To effectively fulfill your intentions and work with full dedication, plan such periods during the day when all distracting factors are eliminated. Turn off your phone, close your email program, minimize contact with outsiders. Set a rule that you will work continuously in blocks. For example, 50 minutes you focus only on work, and then you can take a short break, check messages, and look for new tasks. Allocate time for this. As a result, you will see how quickly you start achieving the necessary results. Monitor the execution of tasks in the list. In life, there are many tasks that are not always coordinated, but their number requires significant time investments for execution. If you don't force yourself to do this routine work, significant chaos in your life will become inevitable. Just think about all the things that need to be done daily or constantly: shopping, cooking, cleaning, laundry, paying taxes, paying bills, taking care of children, and so on. And these are just household chores. If you include work responsibilities here, the list will expand many times over. These things may not seem important to you and even less interesting, but they still need to be done. Significant chaos arises when we refuse to spend time doing what needs to be done. Piles can form on your work or kitchen table or in your mailbox. In any case, a significant factor is the refusal to do what needs to be done. Sometimes it's clear what the program of your actions should be, sometimes it's not clear at all. but ignoring disorder won't solve the problem of piles and emergencies. If you don't know what to do to deal with a huge amount of piled up work, the first step to take is to acknowledge that planning control issues exist and need to be addressed. Routine, boring work is always tense work. Being hardworking doesn't necessarily mean doing incredibly complex or particularly difficult work. Diligence is determined by the amount of time you spend working. There are many tasks in life that will take a lot of time to solve, and the benefits of their implementation will be few. For example, dealing with an overloaded mailbox can take several hours. If you let your mailbox clutter to such a state, you'll just waste time getting rid of the mess in the emails. If you tracked your mail every day, setting aside a few minutes for routine would be easier. Count how many tasks are on your list that you should have done with diligence. There are never too many of them. Yes, it's boring to deal with them, but it still needs to be done. How to determine which tasks steal your time the most. Record the start and end times of working on each task. A journal can be a valuable tool, allowing you to get a more complete picture of your activities, in order to prioritize them and understand which tasks are worth the time spent and which are not. Do everything possible to eliminate time waste, but if you know that a task will require time, don't complain or grumble, just do it. By controlling tasks, you increase your level of self-discipline. By building self-discipline, you get used to managing your time. Getting used to managing your time, you build confidence in yourself. Penalty system. Try to implement a penalty system into your practice. Come up with it yourself or with the help of a mentor. It can be either a monetary or physical penalty. Push-ups, squats, for example. You can also use household chores as a penalty system, such as washing dishes, vacuuming. Now you have a to-do list, and everything you put on it must be done. Otherwise, all your preparatory work will be meaningless. So, if you're not doing anything, no matter the reason, you should take yourself in hand by setting a penalty that you'll define yourself. The penalty size should be significant enough for unfinished tasks to be genuinely unpleasant. Learn to rest properly. Be sure to include time for rest in your plan. This is extremely necessary to avoid getting tired and reaching a state of stress or depression. Rest can be passive, sleep, eating, watching movies, or active, sports, walking, traveling. Passive rest is necessary to restore physical strength, and active rest is for lifting moral ones. As it is known, the best rest from work is another job. Rest also helps the process of generating ideas. Such recommendations will create conditions and develop habits that will help you sleep less and feel alert, that is, achieve your goal. Planning mistakes. Self-discipline is impossible if you are unable to determine what you can accomplish in a day versus a week. But what if, in your attempts to establish a certain order in your time, you repeatedly fail? Check if you're making mistakes. When making plans, obvious errors and problems in planning are usually noticeable, and you already know how to avoid them. But there are also several pitfalls that are not easy to notice. Perhaps your to-do list is inconveniently arranged. This happens if you have chosen goals and criteria for their achievement incorrectly. In this case, you cannot set priorities correctly and inefficiently use your time. Perhaps you think that setting priorities is an easy task, but it's a bit different, especially when you have a lot of urgent tasks. It's important to find a balance between urgent and important tasks. Many urgent tasks can actually be postponed, while important ones require mandatory and immediate action. Review your plan for the day and determine if it takes into account your specifics. At what time of day is your productivity at its peak? At what time of day do you need a full rest? Knowledge and consideration of your biological clock are of great importance for the effectiveness of your work. Learn to monitor your well-being at different times of the day and distribute tasks so that the most difficult ones fall during the period of maximum productivity. Think about whether you are making one of the biggest mistakes in time management, only simulating constant busyness. If your desk is not organized properly, but you don't want to notice it, the mess on your desk will distract you, and as a result, there will be chaos in your thoughts. If so, you should find new sources of motivation and start doing instead of pretending. Chapter 5. Nothing works again. Mistakes and ways to solve them. Many of us are familiar with the so-called New Year's syndrome. Firm promises to start a new life the next day and quickly return to familiar patterns. It is precisely to overcome this syndrome that many people turn to methods of improving self-discipline. If discipline is a steady adherence to a certain order observed from the outside, then self-discipline is the same process observed from within. Subjectively, on the path of self-discovery, we inevitably stumble, but it's foolish to abandon building a house halfway just because it's not finished yet. If your discipline has cracks, it means it requires additional work. No matter what state you are in after failure or unfulfilled promises, just understand that you still need to work on yourself. Be patient and check if you are really following the recommendations correctly, and if you are ready to work on yourself. Do you need discipline? Any attempt to improve your personality contains a paradox. When the imperfect eye tries to make itself perfect, it's like pulling yourself out of the swamp by your hair, like the hero of a famous fairy tale. This paradox is the main enemy of self-discipline, and disciplined self tries to discipline itself, but to succeed in this, it must already possess discipline. It turns out that we have no chance of becoming self-disciplined. Typically, circumstances impose discipline in life. When there is an external necessity, a person effortlessly begins to adhere to the strictest systems of rules. For example, military service or working in a life-threatening production environment handle regime upbringing perfectly. Where does the desire to strengthen one's own discipline come from? Usually, from observations of other people who are considered or only seem more successful and disciplined. In this case, the desire to change one's life arises only from underestimated self-esteem. Will you achieve anything if you try to forcefully copy someone else's routine? In the end, you won't achieve anything, and self-esteem will become completely worthless. It's always more correct to attempt to become better, as if we're trying to step into someone else's shoes and try on someone else's life. Not knowing ourselves, denying our own value, we forfeit the value of the people around us and try to become like them, adopting their system of values, forgetting about cultivating our own. Problems with discipline arise only when we futilely try to force ourselves to do something we don't really want to do or that goes against our deeper principles and desires. The problem is not the lack of willpower, but rather the lack of understanding of ourselves and our true desires. The psyche is a very complex system that operates by strict laws, and changing ready-made settings is not so easy. Applying all efforts and forcing oneself to follow some artificial rules gives a short-term effect, but it will end either with another inevitable defeat or with the destruction of internal integrity. Thus, solving the most global problem of self-discipline hinges on awareness and understanding of one's natural motivation. When we know what we want, the question of discipline simply does not arise. Everything happens naturally. We independently make all the necessary efforts, always act with the utmost efficiency. Discipline is conscious submission to current circumstances, while an effective self-discipline is the artificial imposition of others' circumstances. And if you cannot force yourself to do something, think, do you really want it so badly? Perhaps your true aspirations are far from what you are trying to do. How to solve this problem? First, go back to the beginning of this book, where the necessary psychological attitudes are described, without which self-improvement is useless. Define your goals and positions, and also, for verification, think about from whom you borrowed the desire to become better, whom you envied. Maybe you still prefer to remain yourself rather than copy someone else. However, do not fall into extremes and start chasing your own desires. Perhaps everything is not so bad, and your failures are just a transitional period on the way to a new self. The most common mistakes in this area are attempting to force oneself to do difficult things. When building a system of self-discipline, if you try to immediately transform your whole life by setting a dozen new goals and making several detailed plans before bed, don't expect to be ready to act consistently and strictly according to the devised plan in the morning. With such a sharp approach, you will almost certainly fail. Imagine a person who visits the gym for the first time and tries to lift 150 kilograms on the bench press right away. This endeavor will bring no result but disappointment. If, continuing the analogy with the gym, you can lift about 10 kilograms, start with 10 kilograms. There's nothing shameful or uncomfortable about starting where you are. Similarly, if you are currently a very undisciplined person, you can start with small tasks that you can handle. The more disciplined you become, the easier life becomes. Problems that used to seem endlessly difficult to you will eventually seem like child's play. The stronger you become, the lighter your previous weight will seem. Stop comparing yourself to others. This path will inevitably lead you to a dead end. If you seek a person who is more successful than you and has achieved more, you will surely find one. If you consider yourself weak, then everyone else will seem stronger. If you consider yourself strong, everyone else will seem weak to you. So you can only compete with yourself. Only your own progress should truly interest you. Just look at who you are now and strive to become better. When should you give up? You are always persistent and never give up. Of course, there are no people who do not exist. Sometimes giving up is the most favorable way out of a difficult situation. Think, perhaps your failures are related to the fact that you and your goals have changed, and you haven't noticed it. If you're growing, then you're becoming a different person than you were last year. If you're consciously pursuing personal development, then the changes will often be significant and rapid. You can't guarantee that the goal you set today will also strongly excite and interest you a year from now. To make room for new goals, you must leave behind the old ones. Sometimes new goals are so fascinating and captivating that you simply won't have time to achieve the old ones. In that case, they should be abandoned. The most stressful and difficult part of this process is that you have to make a conscious decision to leave the old project. It may take a long time to accept this fact, but if it's necessary for your own growth, you need to allow it to happen. You're changing, you're developing new interests, so it's important that you can adjust your goals according to your vision of the future. Maybe a few years ago you dreamed of becoming a successful athlete, but now, when you've achieved some results and gotten older, you have other interests. You need to make a choice, whether to pursue something that was once your passion, or what has become a passion for you now. This is a serious choice and a serious decision, so you need to think it over very well, because you'll have to replan your life anew. Perhaps you'll be able to find a goal that you'll pursue throughout your life, one that will remain unchanged even when you're changing, the goal of your entire life. In all other cases, be prepared for changes, but don't confuse your conscious rejection of the old goal in favor of new achievements with the usual avoidance of problems. It's very easy to determine the line if the decision to leave the task comes to you easily. If you don't weigh all the pros and cons, then most likely you've simply given up, so scared that you're lazy. If you constantly postpone tasks, delay the start and completion of any work, even one that you find pleasant, then it means that you often and greatly procrastinate. It would seem that laziness is an obvious flaw. There's no benefit from laziness, and you need to put all your willpower into fighting it. But upon closer investigation, it turns out that laziness doesn't arise on its own. Laziness is a kind of defense mechanism of the psyche against repeating negative experiences, saving from reliving unpleasant emotions from the past. Imagine that once you decided to do something new, start a project, and got a negative experience. Your psyche will resist any new undertaking, so that you don't experience disappointment again. Laziness helps to avoid feelings of guilt, shame, embarrassment, anger, irritation, feelings of slavery, and so on. The brain stores negative memories received throughout life to give an emotional warning signal in the future when events develop similarly. And as soon as you decide to postpone the task, the nervous system immediately rewards you with a pleasant feeling of relaxation. You feel calm and free, as if you really managed to avoid a negative experience. In other words, the brain uses an emotional whip to steer us away from certain actions, and when we avoid these actions, it rewards us with an emotional treat. If you constantly become unemployed, then your subconscious behaves exactly like this. The behavior has become a template that's not so easy to overcome. To consciously resist this process, you need to learn to deactivate the protective mechanisms of your psyche and not use them when they're not needed. That is, when they interfere with being productive. The problem of laziness is never solved simply. First of all, you need to find out exactly what scares you in new tasks, the main fears and ways to overcome them. Fear of failure is the most common option. Fear of failure is a warning signal that your self-esteem may suffer as a result of experiencing negative emotions associated with the imperfection of the result. If it's not immediately clear how to do the job well, fear won't allow you to start the task. In general, in this way, a person can fall into the trap of inaction. How to overcome this fear? Accept as a given that, for the most part, the fear of failure doesn't exist. There's only a fear of reliving unpleasant feelings, such as shame, embarrassment, annoyance, uselessness, depression, and loneliness. It's these experiences that criticism usually causes in people. And personal experience says that the reasons for these experiences are poorly done work. Learn to love yourself regardless of the results of your work and not for merits. Then the fear of defeat will pass by itself. The fear of losing freedom and the joy of life is familiar to those who, even in childhood, relied too much on the word should. How does such fear manifest? As soon as you decide to be persistent in achieving your goal, plan your daily tasks, and set deadlines for their completion, your nervous system will immediately send a signal of alarm. Usually, such signals are perceived as a clear sensation in one part of the body or another, usually in the form of mild discomfort. If you are afraid of becoming a prisoner of your own plans and routines, any attempt at self-discipline will be perceived by you sharply negatively. Overcoming such fear is helped by a correctly chosen goal that you really aspire to. The fear of lowering the bar arises if you have had excellent experience in any matter before. If you have achieved a good result, there may be a fear that next time it won't be as good. The fear of lowering the bar turns into a problem if the uncertainty in the next success paralyzes action. In general, it is important to remember that there is no fear of lowering the bar, just as there is no fear of making mistakes. There is only panic at the thought that because of poor results, those who admired previous victories will stop loving us. And such fears are treated similarly to the fear of making mistakes. Your self-esteem should not depend on others' opinions. The fear of danger can be caused not only by your own experience but also by the warnings of others. To tame this kind of fear, it is worth asking yourself the question, what unpleasant things can happen if I do this? And write down all possible answers that come to mind. This way, you will firstly see that really scary things happen not so often, if at all. Work out possible solutions to problems. The fear of being disappointed in oneself. If a person is firmly convinced that they are talented in a certain area, another trap of the mind may await them. The fear of disappointment in one's own abilities is similar to the fear of failure. One indicates that others will criticize, while the other, disappointment in oneself and self-criticism. Both behavior models are united by unsuccessful experience. On the chosen path, both fears are dangerous traps scattered on the road to success, and both are treated the same by gradually increasing self-esteem. There are a huge number of such fears in our subconscious that block self-realization, do not allow us to start any business, and hold us back from great achievements. If you do not deal with them in time on the path of self-discipline, you may not achieve success. Studying personal fears is an important stage on the path to overcoming laziness. However, mere awareness of the situation will not change anything, and training willpower will not help cope with strong emotional tension that you will experience every time you force yourself to do what you are afraid of. To identify and overcome your fears, you need to explore them in detail. Make a list of questions and answer each of them in as much detail as possible as soon as you work out all the options for action. The impending work will stop causing uncontrollable horror, and therefore you will be able to win. Questions for overcoming fear. What unpleasant things can happen and occur if I start acting actively now, gradually moving towards my goal? What unpleasant things await me on the way to realizing my dream? What feelings and possible unpleasantness will I experience? What will happen if I continue to move towards the intended goal? What emotions will I experience while doing this? What will be the most pleasant and what will be the most unpleasant on the way to the goal? Questions can be combined and asked again. Pitfalls of self-development. When we decide to live the way we see fit, dissatisfied and offended people inevitably show up. Bosses, spouses, parents, children. Initially, the decision to embark on the path of self-improvement and self-discipline will bring you only a sense of loneliness and the feeling that the whole world is against your endeavor. But always remember that we are only accountable to ourselves. The opinion or approval of others, no matter how close they are, should not matter. You and only you are responsible for deciding to live according to your own rules and change for the better. You are responsible for the results of your actions due to the circumstances of your life. The blame for your actions or inaction lies on your shoulders. Often the values and beliefs of other people will diverge from yours. The inconsistency of your lifestyle with their ideas of what is right and what is wrong scares them because their entire life was built on these beliefs. A new schedule will be the subject of their constant dissatisfaction when conflicting beliefs collide. Internal struggle will inevitably begin. You will constantly ask yourself, maybe others are right, does it mean that I am wrong. But for someone who has understood their essence and consciously decided to go all the way, the beliefs and opinions of others cannot threaten them. Only someone who doubts themselves and does not know their true self can be afraid of public opinion, which directly or indirectly threatens their newly built system of values. Starting to critically reassess old beliefs and honestly reevaluate your life, at some point, you will realize that you can only be the authority for yourself. Usually, we wait for hints from others, a push direction, but in reality, only we can know what is best for us. Let others express their opinion about you. Let them praise or criticize. This information will not find a place in your mind and will not become part of your belief system if you do not agree with it and do not accept it as the only true one. Forming certain beliefs about yourself, we act according to them, even if they are far from the truth. Conclusion: difficult tasks are usually associated with big results, and vice versa. If you want to achieve something, unleash your potential. First of all, prepare for hard work. Every person is undoubtedly interested in obtaining some result from their activities. Everyone wants to achieve and accomplish something. Without what you truly need, you will never feel completely happy. You may say that you already have everything you need. You can even deceive yourself or pretend that your desires and aspiration are unimportant and insignificant, but the fact remains, you will still want to obtain something. The task of this book is to give you a set of tools that will allow you to embark on an exciting journey and receive what you desire as a reward. The time has come to take initiative into your own hands and abandon futile hopes. We often, without serious efforts to solve our problems, tell ourselves, I hope this will work out. I hope I will have enough money. I hope people will buy my product. I hope everything will work out. We constantly hope that someone will help us, take care of us, change our lives for the better, make us happy. In the end, someone will give us what we want. But if all you do is hope and wait, no change for the better will happen. It's time to leave behind empty hopes. Hope is an indefinite idea of what could happen once it's a fantasy on a given topic. Turn your hope into a clear goal. Plan the steps to achieve it. Tell yourself mentally, I'm starting now. Hope deprives us of freedom. It is the reason for our suffering. We wait for everything to change by the wave of a magic wand. This thin voice of hope makes us experience disappointment after disappointment because it prevents us from taking responsibility and acting. Train yourself not to hope, but to act and work on yourself. There is only one way to find out what is right for you. Try different options, seek your goals, and strive to achieve them. Taking the first step is always difficult. A body at rest requires much more energy to gain speed than one already in motion. Do something. This is the best advice that can be given to a person striving to make their life better. Make a decision, even if it turns out to be wrong in the end. It's better to do something than to sit still and hope that life will change for the better. If you believe in something with all your heart, it will definitely happen. If you wait for a certain moment or event to start living truly, for example, until you reach a certain age, retire, save up money, achieve a certain goal, meet the right person, then you will spend your whole life in a state of constant waiting, and you will never truly start living. As soon as you start acting and achieving something, you will feel your own strength. The most important stage of your life is coming, and it can become the best. Write down which other books you would like to listen to in audio format. Thank you for your likes and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We wish you all the best.